December 16, 1944. 06:30 a.m. Ardennes Forest, Belgium. The sky is a steel gray and a relentless wind whips snow into blinding sheets across the frozen pines. You can almost hear the muffled roar of German Panzer engines pounding down the icy roads, their tracks crunching over frozen mud, leaving a trail of destruction in the sleepy villages. Smoke curls from shell-hit homes, and the distant rattle of artillery echoes like a sinister heartbeat. At SHAEF headquarters, a map table glows under the dim light of flickering lamps. Generals stare at the lines tracing the German advance, eyes tense, hands trembling slightly from the cold or maybe the dread. They've seen the reports. The Ardennes offensive is moving faster than anyone anticipated. Tank battalions have carved a wedge into the Allied front, cutting off communication, dividing units, and threatening Antwerp itself. Meanwhile, across the frozen countryside, General George S. Patton leans over a cluttered desk in his command post, his uniform dusted with snow and frost. He doesn't flinch at the chaos. Where others see an impossible situation, Patton sees opportunity. The Third Army, battered but disciplined, is ready, but the route ahead is considered suicidal. Narrow roads, knee-deep snow, frozen rivers, and German ambushes litter the path. Everyone has warned him against it. "You can't move tanks through there," they said. "It's madness in this weather." But Patton is already imagining the thunder of Sherman tanks cutting through the ice, half-tracks rolling past blocked roads, infantry brigades racing to seal the German spearheads. His staff listens, skeptical. You can almost see the smirks. Some officers exchange quiet chuckles behind his back. They think he's reckless. They think he's courting disaster. And yet, as the wind howls outside, Patton calmly traces the route on the map. He calculates, timing down to the minute, anticipating snowdrifts, damaged bridges, and enemy patrols. His eyes glint with a mixture of confidence and defiance. This isn't arrogance, it's intuition honed over decades of armored warfare. He doesn't just plan maneuvers, he predicts the enemy's disbelief. Then the first report comes in from forward scouts. German Panzer divisions are stalled by wrecked vehicles in a narrow pass. Supplies are thin, morale is fragile. Patton's opportunity is opening like a trapdoor. But can his Third Army move fast enough before the Germans regroup? Can he turn what seems like a logistical nightmare into a decisive strike? Snow bites through layers of clothing, frost glints on helmets, and artillery fire shakes the ground. And yet in the midst of chaos, one thing is certain: Patton will not wait. Not today. Hours later, 10:45 SHAEF headquarters. The room hums with tension and thinly veiled amusement. Senior Allied commanders huddle around maps, shaking their heads at Patton's plan. They have seen the reports. Narrow roads buried under 3 feet of snow, forests blocked by felled trees, bridges washed out or frozen stiff. "You can't get an army through that," one colonel mutters, eyes darting toward Patton's open orders. "It's impossible." Patton doesn't flinch. He watches their expressions, the disbelief, the quiet snickers exchanged behind the table. It's exactly what he expected. They laugh at his audacity, they call it folly. But Patton thrives in moments like this. He knows the very doubt around him will become a weapon. The Third Army is ready. The weather, though brutal, will conceal their movement. The Germans, overconfident from their rapid advance, will be unprepared. By mid-morning, orders are shouted across command posts. Sherman tanks roar to life, engines spitting black smoke into the frosted air. Half-tracks clatter over icy ground. Infantry brigades, bundled in winter gear, stomp through snow drifts, rifles slung, eyes sharp. You can feel the tension in every man's step, anticipation mingled with fear. They have all heard the warnings, all seen the skepticism in the eyes of their own commanders. Yet here they are, moving forward into what seems like madness. Patton rides at the front in his staff car, a tall figure in a long coat dusted with snow, his eyes scanning the horizon. He speaks briefly to aides, crisp and commanding. "We will hit them where they think we cannot. We will surprise them, and they will regret underestimating us." His words are more than orders, they are a promise. As the Third Army pushes forward, snowdrifts scrape the sides of tanks. Engines strain, men shout over the wind to coordinate movement. German observers, hidden in the trees, report glimpses of advancing Americans. Too few, too slow, they think. They laugh. The Third Army is supposed to be trapped by the winter. Frozen roads, weather, and terrain are supposed to stall them. But the roar of the Sherman tanks grows louder. The ground trembles. The impossible is happening. And yet, just as the first units crest a hill into enemy territory, a sudden flurry of artillery fire rakes the snow-covered road ahead. German anti-tank guns are waiting. The Third Army's advance teeters on the edge of disaster. Can Patton's gamble survive the first real test? 12:17 p.m. Ardennes Forest. The snow is relentless now, falling thick as if the heavens themselves are testing the men below. Sherman tanks, their olive drab hulls dusted white, grind forward over frozen mud, engines whining under the strain. Half-tracks skitter along the sides of narrow paths, carrying infantry ready to leap into the heart of German defenses at a moment's notice. The silence shatters with a thunderclap. German 88 shells tear into a ridge ahead. Trees splinter, snow sprays into the air, and a tank's turret shudders violently as rounds strike armor. Men shout over the roar, scrambling for cover, rifles snapping up toward the unseen enemy. The Germans expected slow, cautious American movements, maybe stalled columns, stuck wheels, and a frozen army. They were wrong. Patton's men move like lightning, disciplined, coordinated, and relentless. From the crest of a hill, Patton peers through binoculars, his jaw tight. "Hold the line, keep moving," he commands, voice carrying over the wind. Every decision is immediate, every adjustment calculated. He knows the Germans' morale is fragile. If he pushes now, he can turn fear into chaos. Minutes feel like hours. A Sherman tank lurches, its tracks catching on ice, and the infantry races forward, tossing grenades into a German machine gun nest. Explosions echo through the forest, snow tumbling from branches like ash from a dying fire. Amid the chaos, the Third Army presses on, cutting deeper into the German spearhead. Each village they pass is abandoned, burned, or mined, but the momentum is unstoppable. Then, a shocking report comes over the radio. One of the forward panzer units is attempting to retreat, but Patton's flank has already blocked the road. The Germans are trapped. Their advance halted not by artillery or numbers, but by the audacity of the Americans moving where no one believed they could. Patton's aides exchange stunned glances. The impossible is unfolding, and yet just as the snow begins to mask their movements, reconnaissance scouts spot German reinforcements approaching from the east. Another storm is coming, not of weather but of fire. Will Patton's gamble hold against the fresh wave of panzer divisions bearing down on his advance? 1:45 p.m. Ardennes crossroads. The snow falls heavier now, muffling the world in white silence, but the battle rages with deafening intensity. Sherman tanks pound forward, shells punching craters into frozen earth. Infantry squads dash between trees, bayonets glinting, boots sinking into snowdrifts, every step measured against the chaos of artillery and machine gun fire. Patton rides at the edge of the column, staff car spinning slowly through the slush. His eyes are sharp, scanning the horizon. "We push now or we are lost," he tells his aides, voice low but urgent. He knows the German panzer divisions are regrouping, trying desperately to stabilize their line. But his advance has thrown them into confusion, their timing shattered, their communications fragmented. In a narrow pass, American tanks confront the first serious resistance. A German Panzer IV battalion dug in behind felled trees. The two sides exchange fire, the roar of cannons echoing like thunder. Men duck into foxholes as ice flies from splintered trunks. Yet in the midst of this, the Third Army does something remarkable. They coordinate a double envelopment. Tanks from one side roll up the flank while infantry sneaks through a frozen creek bed, striking from behind. The Germans are stunned. They had assumed the Americans would be stalled for days. Instead, they are surrounded within hours. By mid-afternoon, radio reports flood Patton's command post. Multiple German units cut off, ammunition and fuel low, officers panicked. Patton doesn't smile, not yet, but there is a calm satisfaction in his eyes. This is the moment his winter gamble pays off. The impossible has become reality. And then a messenger bursts in, snow sticking to his helmet, breath ragged. "Sir, the Germans are retreating toward St. Vith. Our tanks have cut their route. They're abandoning positions we never thought we'd hold." Patton leans forward, fists gripping the edge of the map table. He doesn't gloat. He doesn't celebrate. He already knows the next challenge, moving fast enough to keep the Germans from regrouping while keeping his men alive in the harshest winter conditions Europe has seen in decades. The snow is merciless. Supplies are thin. Every hour counts. As artillery fire dies down in the immediate area, a chilling realization spreads across both sides. The Third Army's audacious winter maneuver has turned the tide. The Germans had mocked, the Allied commanders had doubted, and yet Patton's tanks, half-tracks, and infantry have shattered the line. But the battle isn't over. The Ardennes is still a frozen labyrinth of danger. Will Patton maintain the momentum, or will winter and the cunning German retreat catch his army off guard? Late afternoon, December 16, 1944. The sun struggles to pierce through the thick blanket of gray clouds, casting a pale, ghostly light across the Ardennes. Snow crunches under the tracks of Sherman tanks as they push into villages once thought lost. Houses burned, chimneys smoking, streets deserted, but the enemy is disoriented. German soldiers, once confident of victory, now scatter in confusion, unsure which road leads to safety and which leads into Patton's trap. At a makeshift command post, Patton receives dispatches from all fronts. Each report brings the same astonishment: German panzer divisions immobilized, supply convoys abandoned, officers captured or fleeing. Allied commanders who had mocked his winter plan just hours before now stare at the unfolding map in disbelief. They had expected failure. Instead, they witness a masterclass in armored warfare executed under the harshest conditions imaginable. The Third Army moves like a living organism. Sherman tanks thunder over snowdrifts, engines growling like beasts, while infantry secures crossroads and villages. Half-tracks ferry wounded men, ammunition, and essential supplies along icy tracks. Every unit acts with precision as if guided by an unseen hand. The Germans cannot respond fast enough. Their offensive is collapsing under the very audacity they had dismissed. Patton walks along the column, the cold biting through his coat, observing soldiers hauling artillery pieces through snow-laden mud. He pauses at a destroyed bridge, watching engineers rig makeshift crossings. "Improvisation wins wars, boys," he mutters, a rare smile flickering across his face. You can almost feel the wind shift, a silent acknowledgement that the impossible has been achieved. By nightfall, the Ardennes is quiet in places that only hours earlier had been alive with German tanks and artillery fire. Patton's forces have not only stopped the advance, they have reversed it. Entire panzer battalions are trapped, morale shattered. What had started as a plan ridiculed by skeptics has become a legend in the making. And yet in the darkness, distant artillery rumbles like a warning. Patton knows the Germans will not surrender easily. Reinforcements lurk beyond the forest. The snow may conceal them, but it cannot hide the coming counterattacks. The gamble was successful, but the war is far from over. December 17, 1944. Early morning in the Ardennes. A thin layer of frost coats the shattered landscape, glinting coldly in the dim light. Smoke from abandoned German vehicles curls into the sky, mingling with the mist. The silence is deceptive. The forest seems to hold its breath, waiting for the next move. At SHAEF headquarters, Allied commanders gather around maps once more, faces pale, eyes wide. The same men who laughed at Patton's winter plan yesterday now struggle to comprehend what has just occurred. Entire German panzer divisions, once thought unstoppable, are in retreat, trapped by the maneuver they dismissed as impossible. Officers scribble frantic notes, trying to adjust strategies in real time, but the initiative has already shifted. Patton, standing on a ridge overlooking the icy valley, surveys his success with a calm intensity. Sherman tanks rumble through the snow like clockwork, infantry brigades securing every village and crossroads. Communication lines hum with updates, prisoners taken, supply caches captured, roads cleared. It is a symphony of order emerging from chaos. In the villages, soldiers whisper stories of audacity. "He moved faster than anyone thought possible," one young corporal mutters to his companion, snow crusting his eyebrows. "We didn't just advance, we stunned them." The awe isn't just among his men. German commanders, too, are forced to respect a leader who could turn ridicule into decisive triumph. Even Patton Wright.S aides, once skeptical, now speak in hushed reverence. The lesson is clear. Boldness, speed, and ruthless calculation can transform an impossible plan into victory. The Ardennes winter, meant to paralyze armies, has instead highlighted the genius of one man willing to defy convention. But as the snow settles, the story leaves a lingering question. How long before the Germans regroup, and what will it take to keep the Third Army ahead of them? Pat knows this is only the beginning, that the Ardennes will demand every ounce of resolve his men can muster. The winter's mockery has become awe, but the fight is far from over. December 18, 1944. The morning sun cuts through a brittle sky, casting long shadows across a battlefield transformed overnight. Villages once smoldering with fire and artillery now lie eerily quiet. Sherman tanks sit in frozen mud, their engines silent, as infantry patrols sweep the roads. The German Ardennes offensive, which had thundered through the forest just days earlier, is now fractured and in full retreat. Patton Wright.S Third Army stands at the heart of the victory, but he moves among his men not with triumphalism, but with a keen eye for the next challenge. Every frozen road, every battered tank, every exhausted soldier is a reminder that audacity alone does not win wars. Discipline, coordination, and relentless execution are equally crucial. "We hit them when they thought we couldn't," he tells a group of aides, voice low but firm. "Now we must keep hitting." Across the Allied command, reports pour in. Generals who had mocked the winter maneuver hours ago now relay their astonishment. Eisenhower himself notes Pat Wright.S decisiveness in his dispatches, a gamble that could have failed spectacularly, but succeeded beyond expectation. Newspapers and radio broadcasts will later call it one of the most daring maneuvers of the war, but in the moment, it is simply survival, strategy, and speed intertwined. German commanders, forced to abandon positions they considered unassailable, record their shock in diaries and reports. The aura of the Third Army, led by a man who thrives where others hesitate, has left a mark. Patton has done more than repel an offensive. He has reshaped the expectations of armored warfare under winter conditions. In the aftermath, as soldiers huddle in snowy foxholes and burned-out villages, there is a quiet reverence. The Ardennes winter, once seen as a trap, has become the stage for one of Patton Wright.S most legendary achievements. From disbelief to awe, from mockery to triumph, the Third Army's bold maneuver is a testament to vision, courage, and unyielding determination. And yet, in the stillness, the war continues. Patton writes, "S. Gamble has won a critical battle, but the Ardennes, like Europe itself, is far from tamed. One question hangs in the icy air: how many more impossible victories will it take to finally end this war?" And